The diplomatic shuttle moved slowly through the purple clouds of Prime. Inside the ship, 12 different alien species sat together, all of them nervous and afraid. They were going to a world that most beings in the galaxy feared to visit. They were going to the home of the ambassador. Was a tall creature with 4 arms and skin the color of dark blue water. He held all 4 of his arms close to his body because he could not stop shaking. He had read every report about this planet. He had seen every image of the creature that lived here, and now he was actually coming to this terrible place. Commander sat nearby. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors based on his emotions. Right now, the crystal was flickering with dark blue light, which meant he was deeply worried. He looked across the shuttle at the human family and shook his head slowly. Captain Laura noticed his look and smiled at him. She was a woman in her middle 30s with brown hair and kind eyes. Her 5-year-old daughter was sleeping against her shoulder, breathing softly, completely unaware of where they were going. "Remind me again why we brought the humans," said quietly too. Laura heard him and answered before could speak. "Because humans are now full members of the Galactic Confederation. That means we get to join diplomatic missions just like everyone else." "Even missions to this world?" asked. His crystal face flickered even darker. "Do you understand what lives here? Do you understand what the people worship?" Laura's husband looked up from his. Commander Daniel was a tall man with broad shoulders and a calm face. He had been reading everything he could find about this planet since they left the station 3 days ago. "We know about the," Daniel said. "We read all the briefings. It is basically a dragon, a very large dragon, bigger than most starships. It has scales that are harder than the armor on our best warships. It breathes fire that burns hotter than a star. Some people say it cannot die." "It does not just live here," Ambassador said, his voice almost a whisper. "It watches everything. It judges everything. The people believe it is a god, and after seeing what it can do, I am not sure they are wrong." Leaned forward, his 4 arms still pressed tightly against his body. 50,000 years ago, there was a species called the. They were powerful warriors with a massive fleet. They decided they wanted to conquer this planet. They sent 17,000 warships to take it by force. "What happened?" Laura asked. "They destroyed them all in a single night. Every ship, every soldier. Gone. They never recovered. They are still part of the Confederation today, but they are only a shadow of what they once were. All because of one creature on one night 50,000 years ago." Little moved in her sleep and made a soft sound. Laura held her closer and stroked her brown hair gently. The child was so small, so innocent. She had no idea that they were flying toward the most dangerous being in the known universe. Mommy opened her eyes slowly, rubbing them with her tiny fists. "Are we there yet?" "Almost, sweetie. Go back to sleep." But was awake now. She sat up and looked around the shuttle with curious eyes. She saw all the different aliens sitting in their seats, many of them looking scared. She did not understand why they were afraid. The shuttle broke through the clouds and everyone looked out the windows. Below them was the capital city. It was beautiful in a dark and ancient way, with towers made of black stone and silver metal that reached up toward the sky. The buildings were thousands of years old, older than human civilization itself. But nobody was looking at the city. Every eye in the shuttle was looking at the mountains behind it. There, wrapped around the highest peak like a sleeping snake, was the. Even from far away, they could see how big it was. Its body stretched for kilometers, coiled around the mountain again and again. Its scales shone like copper that had been heated until it glowed. Its wings were folded against its body, each wing large enough to cover the entire capital city in shadow. The creature's eyes were closed. Smoke rose from its nose in lazy spirals, drifting up into the purple sky. "By the 7 suns," whispered one of the delegates. There were insect-like beings with hard shells and many legs. This one was shaking so badly that his legs clicked against the floor. pressed her face against the window, her eyes wide with wonder. "Mommy, look, is that a dragon, like in my storybooks?" Laura felt her heart squeeze tight. Her daughter sounded excited, not afraid. "Something like that, honey. It's so pretty and so big," bounced in her seat. "I want to see it up close." Several aliens turned to stare at the child with expressions of horror. Commander's crystal body flickered through 5 different colors in 2 seconds. "Your offspring wishes to approach he asked, his voice high with disbelief. "Does she not understand?" "She's 5 years old," Daniel said. "She thinks dragons are wonderful. She has dragon toys all over her room." "Then she is fortunate that she does not know the truth." The shuttle landed on a platform made of polished black stone. The greeting party was already waiting for them. They were tall beings, taller than humans, with elegant bodies and silver eyes. They wore robes of black and gold that moved like water when they walked. The leader of the greeting party was High Priest. He was very old, even by standards, and his silver eyes held the weight of countless years of service to his god. He bowed deeply to the delegation. "Welcome to Prime," he said. His voice was smooth and calm. "The Great One sleeps peacefully today. This is considered a very good sign for our negotiations." "And if it was not sleeping?" Daniel asked. His expression did not change. "Then we would not be having this conversation. The Great One's mood controls all things on this world. When it is angry, nothing survives. When it is calm, we are permitted to live our lives." As they walked toward the conference building, held her mother's hand and kept looking back at the mountain. The dragon was so far away, but she could not stop thinking about it. "Mommy," she said quietly, "the dragon looks lonely up there all by itself." Laura looked down at her daughter with surprise. "What makes you say that, sweetie?" "I don't know, it just looks sad, like it doesn't have any friends." Ambassador heard the child's words and felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had watched recordings of the destroying armies. He had seen it burn cities and tear ships apart with its claws. Nothing about that monster suggested loneliness. Only death, only destruction waiting to happen. But still, as they entered the conference building and the great doors closed behind them, could not forget what the human child had said. He could not forget the look in her innocent eyes as she stared at the most feared creature in the galaxy and saw something that no one else had ever seen. Something lonely, something sad. Something that might need a friend. 3 days passed on Prime. The negotiations were not going well. The Galactic Confederation wanted something that existed deep beneath the surface of this planet. There were special minerals here, rare materials that were needed to build faster than light engines. Without these minerals, ships could not travel between the stars. The Confederation needed them badly. They were willing to share, but their demands were very high. They wanted technology, protection agreements, and most importantly, they wanted respect for their god. That was sacred to them. Any deal would have to honor that. Laura sat at the long negotiation table, trying to keep everyone calm. As the senior human representative, she had taken on the role of mediator. She tried to find common ground between the different species. She tried to help everyone understand each other. But one group refused to cooperate. The delegation had been difficult from the very first day. Their species had never forgotten what happened 50,000 years ago. They had never forgotten that they destroyed their ancestors and ruined their civilization. Ambassador was the leader of the group. He was a large reptilian being with green scales and yellow eyes that burned with old hatred. Every time they mentioned their god, scales would flush darker with anger. On the 3rd day, he finally lost his patience. "This is foolish," snarled, slamming his clawed fist on the table. "Your world sits on resources that belong to the entire galaxy. You hide behind your pet monster while other civilizations suffer and struggle." The room went completely silent. Every alien at the table stopped breathing. Even the air seemed to freeze. High Priest rose slowly from his chair. His silver eyes had gone cold and hard. The Great One is not a pet. The Great One is our sacred guardian, our protector, our God. And you would do well to remember what happened to your ancestors when they thought they could take what was not freely given. Stood up so fast that his chair fell over behind him. 50,000 years have passed since then. Perhaps your dragon has grown weak with age. Perhaps it has grown slow and tired. Perhaps it is time to test that theory and see if the old monster still has any fire left. Stand down right now, Laura commanded, stepping forward with her hands raised. This is exactly the kind of talk that will end these negotiations forever. We came here to make peace, not threats. The ambassador turned his yellow eyes toward her. The humans should mind their own business. Your species has only been in space for 300 years. You are like children playing in a room full of adults. What could you possibly know about galactic politics? I know that threatening to destroy an entire civilization is generally not good diplomacy. And I know that weakness invites attack. They have hidden behind their beast for too long. It is time they learned to stand on their own or face the consequences. Before Laura could respond, before anyone could say another word, alarms began screaming throughout the building. Red lights flashed on the walls. The massive around the room flickered to life, showing images from cameras pointed at the mountain. There was a wake. Its eyes had opened. Those enormous eyes, each one bigger than the shuttle that had brought them here, now blazed with inner fire. They looked like twin suns burning in a face made of copper and gold. The creature's head was moving slowly, turning to look down at the city below. Daniel grabbed Laura's arm. "What did you do?" he demanded, looking at. "I did nothing. I merely spoke the truth about their precious God." "The Great One hears all things," whispered. His calm composure was cracking now, and fear showed in his silver eyes. "It knows when disrespect has been shown. It knows when violence has been thought of in its shadow. It knows when hatred enters its domain." The ground began to shake. Outside the windows, they could see the uncoiling itself from the mountain peak. Rocks the size of buildings tumbled down the slopes, crashing into the valleys below. The creature's wings began to unfold, spreading out across the sky, blocking the light from the twin suns. Shadow fell over the entire capital city. Then the roared. The sound was beyond anything words could describe. It was not just loud. It was a vibration that went through everything, through walls and floors and bones and thoughts. Glass shattered throughout the conference building. Delegates fell to their knees, clutching their heads, crying out in pain. The representative collapsed completely, his insect body unable to handle the sensory overload. Two of the diplomats began vomiting. Commander's crystal form flickered so wildly that he looked like a broken light. "We need to leave," shouted, trying to be heard over the ringing in everyone's ears. "The shuttles can reach orbit in 6 minutes if we run now. We might be able to escape before the creature attacks." "No one leaves," said. His voice was hollow and empty now, all hope gone from it. "If you try to run, the Great One will see you as prey trying to escape. It will chase you across the stars. It will not stop until you are dead." Laura's mind was racing, trying to think, trying to plan. Then suddenly she felt something wrong, something missing. "Daniel," she said, her voice sharp with sudden terror, "where is?" They both turned, looking around the chaos of the conference room. Aliens were running in circles, screaming, praying to gods that could not help them. Tables had been knocked over. Papers flew through the air like frightened birds. But their daughter was not there. "She was right here," Daniel said. His face had gone white. "She was sitting in the corner playing with her tablet. She was right here just a few minutes ago." "Where is my daughter?" Laura screamed, grabbing the nearest guard and shaking him. "Where is she?" The guard pointed at a small door on the side of the room. It was a servant entrance, used by workers to bring food and drinks. The door stood slightly open. I saw the human child leave just before the alarms, the guard said. She went through that door. Leave to go where? The guard's face went pale. She was looking out the window at the mountain. She said something about wanting to see the dragon. She said she wanted to meet it. Laura felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her feet. Her little girl, her 5-year-old baby, had left the safety of the building. She had walked out into a city where an angry god was preparing to bring destruction. She had gone toward the most dangerous creature in the universe. No, Laura whispered. No, no, no. Daniel was already running for the door. Laura followed him, pushing past aliens who were too scared to move. Behind them, the roared again, and the whole world shook with its rage. Somewhere out there, a little girl with brown hair and curious eyes was walking toward a dragon. And no one knew if they would ever see her alive again. Loved dragons more than anything else in the world. Her bedroom back on the colony ship was covered with dragon pictures. She had dragon toys on every shelf. She had dragon blankets on her bed and dragon slippers on her feet. Every night before sleep, her daddy read her stories about dragons, and her favorite story was about a princess who made friends with a dragon that everyone else was afraid of. In that story, the dragon was not really mean. It was just lonely and misunderstood. The princess saw that the dragon only needed someone to be kind to it. When she showed the dragon love, it became her best friend and helped her save her whole kingdom. Believed that story with all her heart. She believed that all dragons were really good inside. They just needed someone to love them. So when she saw the real dragon wake up through the conference room window, she did not feel scared like all the adults. She felt excited. She had never seen a real dragon before, and this one was the biggest, most beautiful dragon she could ever imagine. Then the mean lizard man started saying terrible things about the dragon. He called it a monster and a beast. He said it was weak and old. Could see how upset everyone was getting. She could hear the dragon roaring outside. And she understood what was happening. The dragon had heard the mean words. The dragon's feelings were hurt. That was why it was so angry. While all the adults were yelling and falling down and crying slipped away, she found a small door and pushed it open. Outside, the streets were empty. Everyone had run away to hide, but was not afraid. She looked up at the mountain where the dragon was. It was far away, but she could see a path that went in that direction. She started walking. The city was strange and beautiful, with tall black buildings and streets made of shiny stone. Purple flowers grew in pots along the walkways. Had never seen purple flowers before, and she stopped to pick some. Dragons in stories always liked presents. Maybe this dragon would like flowers. The path out of the city was long and steep. His little legs got tired, but she kept going. She climbed over rocks and walked through bushes with leaves that sparkled like jewels. She crossed little streams of water that made musical sounds as they flowed. Behind her, she could hear the dragon still roaring. She could feel the ground shaking under her feet. But ahead of her, the mountain got closer and closer. It took a long time. Did not know how long because she did not have a watch and could not tell time very well anyway. But finally, she reached the lower part of the mountain where the dragon had come down to rest. And there it was. It was bigger than anything had ever seen. Its head alone was larger than her family's whole ship. Its scales glowed like fire, orange and red and gold all mixed together. Smoke came out of its nose with every breath, and its eyes burned like two angry suns. The dragon was crouched on a flat place made of black rock. It was looking down at the city below, and could tell it was thinking about hurting everyone there. All those mean people who said mean things, all those scared people who ran away. Walked right up to the dragon. Her little shoes made soft sounds on the stone. The dragon noticed her immediately. Its enormous head swung around, and those burning eyes focused on her. The creature made a low sound deep in its throat, a growl that could feel in her chest. Smoke poured from its nostrils and swirled around her like a hot fog. For 50,000 years, no being had ever come this close to the by choice. Armies had come to fight it. Priests had come to worship it from far away. But no one had ever just walked up to it like this small human child was doing now. Smiled and waved her hand. "Hi, dragon, my name is, are you feeling sad?" The dragon stared at her. It did not understand. This tiny creature should be running away. It should be screaming in fear. All beings screamed in fear when they saw the. But this one was smiling. This one was waving. This one smelled like flowers and sunshine, and something the dragon had not sensed in a very, very long time. No fear at all. "The mean lizard man said really bad things about you," continued. She sat down on a rock near one of the dragon's huge claws. Each claw was longer than she was tall, sharp enough to cut through metal. She did not care. "I think that was very rude of him. My mommy always says we should never say mean things about people we don't know. It's not nice." The dragon's mind was old. It had lived for so long that it had forgotten what young felt like. It had forgotten what small felt like. But something about this tiny human reached into its ancient thoughts and touched something there. It found no fear in her, no anger, no wanting to hurt or take or control, only curiosity and warmth and something the dragon had almost forgotten existed. Kindness, pure, simple kindness. "You're not scary," said. She stood up and walked even closer, right up to the dragon's face. Its eye was bigger than her whole body. She could see herself reflected in it, a tiny girl with brown hair and a big smile. "You're just big. Being big doesn't make you mean. My daddy is big too, and he gives the best hugs in the whole universe." She reached out her small hand and touched the dragon's snout. The scales were hot, very hot, but not hot enough to hurt her. They felt like stones that had been sitting in the sun all day. She patted them gently, the way she patted her cat back home. There," she said softly. "It's okay, you don't have to be angry anymore." Something changed inside the. Deep down, in a place it had buried thousands of years ago, a memory woke up. A memory of when it was young. A memory of when it was not alone. A memory of when there were others like it, before they all went away and left it behind. A memory of what it felt like to be touched with gentleness. The dragon closed its eyes. The fire in them faded. The smoke from its nostrils became softer, less angry, and from deep inside its enormous chest came a sound that no being had ever heard it make before. Not a roar, not a growl. Something soft and rumbling and almost gentle. Almost like a purr. Giggled and kept patting the dragon's nose. "See, I knew you were nice inside. All dragons are nice inside. You just needed someone to be your friend." She sat down again, this time right next to the dragon's face, leaning against its warm scales like they were a big pillow. She held up the purple flowers she had picked. "I brought you a present. Do you like flowers? I think they're really pretty. I picked them just for you." The most feared creature in the galaxy, the god of destruction, the monster that had killed millions, looked at the small purple flowers in the tiny human's hands. And for the first time in 50,000 years, it felt something other than rage and loneliness. It felt hope. Laura had never known real fear until that day. She had faced dangers before. She had survived space battles and emergency landings and diseases that swept through colony ships, but nothing compared to the terror of knowing her daughter was out there somewhere, walking toward the most dangerous creature ever known to exist. The search parties spread out through the city as soon as the dragon stopped roaring. Laura and Daniel took a shuttle and flew toward the mountain, following the path they thought might have taken. Ambassador and Commander came with them, though both had said it was a waste of time. "They will kill anything that comes near it," had said, his 4 arms wrapped around himself. "Your daughter is already gone. I am sorry, but you must accept this terrible truth." Laura had looked at him with fire in her eyes. "I will not accept anything. My daughter is alive and I am going to find her." Daniel flew the shuttle higher and higher up the mountain. The air outside was thin and cold. The twin suns were starting to set, painting the purple sky with colors of gold and pink. Any other time, it would have been beautiful. Now it just felt like the world was ending. "There," said suddenly. His crystal body flickered with pale blue light as he pointed ahead. It has stopped on that plateau." Laura pressed her face against the window, straining to see. The dragon was there, lying on a flat area of black rock. It was not moving. It was not roaring. It was just lying there, completely still, like it was sleeping. Then she saw something else. Something small on top of the dragon's head, right between its enormous horns. "Get closer," she whispered. "Daniel, get us closer now." The shuttle moved forward slowly. As they got nearer, Laura's eyes went wide. Her heart stopped beating for a moment. Her brain refused to believe what she was seeing. Was sitting on the dragon's head. Her little girl, her 5-year-old baby, was sitting right on top of the like it was a playground slide. She had flowers in her hands and was making them into a small crown. She was humming a song, some tune from a cartoon she liked to watch. The dragon's eyes were half closed. Its massive body was completely relaxed. Smoke drifted from its nostrils in gentle wisps, not angry clouds. "Mommy," saw the shuttle and waved both hands excitedly. "Mommy, Daddy, look, I made a friend." Laura's legs stopped working. She would have fallen if Daniel had not caught her. He was staring at their daughter with the same look of complete shock on his face. "This is not possible," Commander whispered. His crystal form had frozen completely. It was not flickering anymore. It was just still, like a statue made of glass. "This is not possible. This cannot be real." Ambassador made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a sob. He had seen the footage. He had read about its power. He had heard stories of the armies it destroyed and the worlds it threatened. And now a tiny human child sat on its head, making flower crowns. The shuttle landed on the plateau and Laura ran out before the engines had even stopped. She stopped a few meters from the dragon, suddenly afraid to get closer. The creature's eye opened and looked at her. That burning eye, bigger than her whole body, staring right at her. She could not move, she could not breathe, but just laughed and slid down the dragon's neck like it was a playground slide. She ran to her mother and threw her arms around her legs, hugging tight. "Mommy, don't be scared, he's nice. His name is—" She paused and thought hard. "Actually, he doesn't have a name. Can you believe that? He's been alive forever and nobody ever gave him a name. I think that's really sad." Behind them, more shuttles were arriving. Priests in their black and gold robes. Confederation delegates who had found enough courage to follow the search parties. Soldiers with weapons in their hands. All of them stopped. All of them stared. All of them froze in complete shock at the sight before them. A human child stood beside the most feared creature in the galaxy, holding its claw like it was her father's hand. High Priest was the first to recover. He fell to his knees on the black stone, tears streaming down his ancient face. "The prophecy," he breathed. The sacred text spoke of this moment, a small one, innocent and pure, who would calm the Great One's rage, a bridge between destruction and peace. We thought it was just a story. We thought it was poetry from old times. We never believed it would come true. "She's not a prophecy," Laura said, finally finding her voice. She pulled close, holding her tight, feeling her small heart beating. "She's just a little girl who loves dragons." "She is both," whispered. "She is exactly what the ancient words described. Small, innocent, unafraid, full of love where others carry only fear." Tugged at her mother's shirt. "Mommy, I told the dragon that the mean lizard man didn't speak for everybody. I told him that most people are nice if you give them a chance. He listened to me. He understood." She looked back at them with love in her eyes. "He's very old, Mommy, very, very old, and he's the last one. There used to be more dragons like him a long, long time ago, but they all went away and he was left alone. For thousands and thousands of years, he's been all alone with nobody to talk to, nobody to be nice to him. Isn't that the saddest thing you ever heard? The dragon raised its head. Its burning gaze swept over all the beings gathered on the plateau. The soldiers dropped their weapons and fell back. The delegates pressed themselves against their shuttle. Even Commander, who had no real body to harm, trembled with fear. But the dragon did not attack. It did not roar. It did not breathe fire. Instead, it looked at, and its enormous head dipped downward in something that could only be a bow. A gesture of respect, a gesture of thanks, a gesture of love. Daniel put his arm around Laura, and together they watched their daughter wave at the dragon that had terrified the galaxy for 50,000 years. Tears ran down Laura's face, but she was smiling. Her little girl had done the impossible. She had walked up to a monster and found a friend inside. And somehow, against all reason, against all history, against everything that anyone had ever believed about the monster had found a friend too. Ambassador stood beside them, all four of his arms hanging loose at his sides. "I have lived for 300 years," he said quietly. "I have seen wonders across 1,000 worlds, but I have never seen anything like this. I never believed anything like this could exist." Laura hugged her daughter. "That's she whispered. "She sees the good in everything, even in dragons." On the plateau of black stone, as the twin suns set behind the mountains and painted the sky with fire, the most dangerous creature in the galaxy closed its eyes and purred. Because for the first time in 50,000 years, it was not alone. Everything changed after that day on the mountain. The negotiations started again, but they were different now. The anger and fear that had filled the conference room was gone. Something new had taken its place, something that felt almost like hope. Ambassador, the who had said those terrible things about the dragon, had been sent back to his in shame. His own people were embarrassed by what he had done. They removed him from his position and sent another ambassador, one who understood that words could be weapons and that some weapons should never be used. High Priest declared a sacred guest of Prime. This was an honor that had never been given to anyone from another world in all of recorded history. The people treated her like a princess, bringing her gifts and flowers and special foods, but did not care about any of that. She only wanted to see her dragon. Every day she went to visit it had come down from its mountain and now rested at the edge of the capital city, where it could watch everything that happened, where it could watch. Laura and Daniel were nervous at first. How could they not be? Their daughter was spending hours every day with a creature that could destroy cities with a single breath, but they saw how gentle the dragon was with her. They saw how it curled its massive body around her to protect her from the wind. They saw how it lowered its head so she could sit on its nose and tell it stories. The dragon was different now. Everyone could see it. The fire in its eyes had grown softer. The smoke from its nostrils was gentler. It no longer looked at the city with hunger and anger. It looked at everything with something new. Patience, peace, protection. Commander ran many tests with his scientific instruments. He scanned the dragon's body and studied its brain patterns. What he found amazed him. "The creature's stress levels have dropped to numbers we have never recorded before," he reported to Captain Laura and Commander Daniel. "Its neural activity has changed completely. Before, its brain patterns showed constant alertness, constant readiness to fight. Now they show relaxation and contentment, and something we can only describe as bonding." "What does that mean in simple words?" Laura asked. "It means your daughter has changed its mind. Not with weapons or technology, not with threats or bargains. She changed it with kindness. She reached something inside that ancient brain that no one else could reach. She made it feel safe enough to trust." Daniel laughed, but there was wonder in his voice. "Last month she tried to make friends with a cargo drone. She gave it a name and talked to it every day. We thought she was just being silly." "Perhaps she was practicing," said. "Perhaps humans are built differently than the rest of us. You approach everything with open hearts, even things that could kill you. The rest of us have learned to be careful. We have learned to be afraid. But your species still has the courage to love first and ask questions later. The negotiations finished successfully 1 week later. They agreed to share their precious minerals with the Confederation. They did not do this because they were forced or threatened. They did it because High Priest said that the Great One had shown favor to the outsiders through. To refuse would be to insult that blessing. Before the final ceremony, Ambassador came to speak with Laura. He stood before her with all four of his arms clasped together in the sign of deepest respect. "I must apologize to you," he said. "When I asked why we brought humans on this mission, I thought your species was too young for real diplomacy. I thought you were too naive, too soft, too innocent to understand how the galaxy really works." "And now," Laura asked, "now I understand that I was wrong. Those things I called weaknesses are actually your greatest strengths." Paused, and his blue face showed an expression of wonder. "We older species have seen too much. We have lived too long. We approach everything with fear and suspicion and careful planning. We have forgotten how to see the universe with fresh eyes. We have forgotten how to offer kindness without expecting something back." Laura smiled. "Would say that sounds very sad." She would be right. Looked out the window at the which lay peacefully in the afternoon sun, was there, curled up against its massive foreleg, taking a nap. The most feared creature in the galaxy was watching over her while she slept. The galaxy is changing because of your people, not because of your weapons or your ships or your clever technology, because of something far more powerful. "What's that?" "Heart," said softly. "You approach the universe with heart. You see monsters and look for the friend hiding inside. You see enemies and imagine them as allies. You see the darkness and carry your own light into it." The day came when the human delegation had to leave Prime. Had known it was coming, but that did not make it easier. She stood before them with tears running down her cheeks and her small body shaking with sadness. The dragon lowered its head until its enormous eye was level with the tiny girl, threw her arms around its snout and hugged as tight as she could. Her arms did not reach very far, but the dragon felt her love like warmth spreading through its ancient heart. "I have to go home now," said through her tears. "My mommy and daddy have work to do on other planets, but I'll come back. I promise I'll come back. You won't be lonely anymore. I'll visit you every year on your birthday." The dragon made that soft sound again, the purring rumble that only had ever heard. Its mind touched hers gently, and she felt something warm and grateful and full of emotion flow into her thoughts. Not words. Dragons did not think in words, but understood anyway. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for not being afraid. Thank you for being my friend." "I love you too," whispered. Laura and Daniel watched from near the shuttle, holding hands. They had learned so much on this mission. Not about alien politics or trade negotiations or galactic diplomacy. They had learned about their daughter and about their species, and about what it meant to be human in a universe full of ancient, powerful, fearful beings. Humans were young. Humans were small. Humans did not have the technology or the armies or the long history that other species had. But humans had something else, something that could not be measured or defeated. They had the courage to love what others feared. As the shuttle rose into the purple sky of Prime, pressed her face against the window and watched the dragon grow smaller and smaller below. But just before they flew too high to see, she saw something that made her smile through her tears. The raised one massive wing and held it up toward the sky. It was waving goodbye. Far below, on a world that had been ruled by fear for 50,000 years, the most powerful creature in the galaxy lay down and closed its eyes. But it was not sleeping the sleep of anger and loneliness anymore. It was dreaming of its friend. It was dreaming of purple flowers and kind words and small hands that touched it gently. It was dreaming of the first being in all its long life that had looked at it and seen not a monster, not a god, not a weapon. just someone who needed to be loved. And in its ancient heart, the dragon held onto the warmest feeling it had ever known. Hoping. Hope that the small human would keep her promise. Hope that she would come back. Hope that for the rest of its endless life, it would never have to be alone again. Because that was what humans brought to the universe. Not conquest, not fear, not power. Just love. And sometimes, love was the most powerful thing of all.